It's Abigail from Bluebird Studios, and I am happy that you are joining me today as I am sharing some things that I learned from my very first book I published. For a little bit of background, I actually published my first book at 15. So, as you can imagine, I kind of had a lot to learn, and things didn't really go as planned for me in that, I guess. I really made some major mistakes because I just didn't know any better. I was young. I had already been writing for years, but obviously I have come a whole lot farther now and have learned a lot. But you know, you live and you learn, and that's something I really need to remember. But I mentioned in my AuthorTube newbie video that I considered actually taking my first 2 books down, but I really want to use it as an inspiration and a kind of a teaching thing for other people. I see so many other authors who just have their first book be just pristine, and you know, so many of us, myself included, I've looked at them and have been like, how did they get such a beautiful, perfect book like on the first try? Because I've been struggling for so long. And so the truth is that most of the time there is so many years and scrap stories and just so much time spent writing, practicing, and perfecting your craft before that first book comes out. But we just don't see that. So since I did make those mistakes and self-publishing existed at that time, and I went through and published my book, I figured I might as well keep it up there, because then people can see my journey and how far I have come as a writer and as a person. So with that being said, here are some things that I learned from publishing my first book. For me personally as a writer, I learned more about myself, and that one thing is that I desperately need to plot. I did not for my first book. I totally pantsed it, and it was fun. Well, I did very, like, such minimal plotting and outlining that I pretty much don't consider it, compared to what I do now. I really consider I pantsed it because I didn't know so much. I will say that it got me into so much trouble. And even now, if you go and look at that book on Amazon, it's actually listed as part of a series. But that kind of brings us to the second thing, which kind of ties in with, you know, me needing to plot, is that I did not plot out the whole series. I did not really do any sort of planning for the future. And because of this, I got stuck once I finished the book and published it. I went to go write it, and I think I got like halfway through the book, writing the second book, like 3 times, but I just felt like it was boring and that I really didn't know what to write about. The first book was a romance, so at the end, spoiler, they got together, right? But then it was like, then what? What do I write about? Like, it's not, they're already together, so, and in the epilogue, they are actually married, so what am I supposed to write about? And I tried like 3 different major, I guess, issues with one person's side of the family, issues with a child, issues with their marriage, but ultimately which is a totally different genre than the first book. And so I found I wasn't really interested in that, I guess. And by the time I came to the conclusion that this really wasn't working, it also been a pretty decent amount of time, and I had grown, because obviously from 15 to, a year later at 16, you've changed so much, and this had been about, I think, 2 years. And because of that, I realized I was really no longer interested in writing the romance genre that much, and I certainly wasn't interested in whatever family drama I would end up writing about in their second book. And so I never finished that series, and I don't really have any plans to, and I think that's sad, but I'm okay with it, I guess. Major issue I did that I'm still, it gets me every time. This is the biggest issue that I want to take down that book because I'm ashamed of it, is I did not edit it nearly enough. I didn't even have anyone else go through it. I went through it myself, and I did not know how thorough editing needs to be and how advanced it is. Like now, I think I do more editing than I do writing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot, and it takes a lot. And you have to have multiple eyes on it, at least like 3 other eyes, reading and editing and helping you look through your book before you should publish it. And I didn't do that because I was 15. And so I really didn't know much about this, and I had a lot of learning and to do, and that's okay. So that kind of brings us to actually the next point, that I have to release my work at some point, and I have to understand that this is really good from where I'm at now, or where I was at when I wrote it. That's the issue with always improving and always growing and always learning, is that when that happens, even 3 months from now, I will look back on my writings from today, and they won't be as good as what I could produce then. And so you have to, at some point, let go and just know that that was really good for that time and who you were and what you knew at that place. I know for being 15 and, just trying to get into publishing and starting to pursue that as my main focus and career, I did everything I knew and followed through and did my best. And at this point, it's maybe cringy, the story may be cheesy, but that's probably what you'd expect from a 15-year-old, right? So I feel like it's important to recognize that you have to let go at some point, and you can't look back and regret, because I learned so much. And I will tell you what, I don't know if I would have pursued it if I hadn't published that book. Like, as embarrassing as it may feel, and how sometimes it's like, I wish I just would have held on to that, but there's still value in that story, and there's still a purpose for it, and it encouraged me in the very least. So with that being said, I am glad I did, and I'm not taking it down because I want it to serve as a reminder for myself and for other people that you have to start somewhere, and you have to keep growing, and that means when you keep learning and growing and maturing, that things are going to look bad when you look back at them. They're going to look so immature and so just badly done, because they were to some extent, but they weren't for the place you were at. So I think that it's really important to remember that. I've heard it said a lot that you should never ever publish your first book, and while I think this may be true for some, I don't think it's necessarily true across the board. Because the thing is we have to start somewhere. And you may not necessarily go and try to get it traditionally published or even self-published, but maybe you just put it up on your blog and say, hey, this is my first story, or something like that. I'm going to be making another video about my second book I published at 17, because I learned a totally different set of lessons in that. And the book is completely opposite from my first, which is crazy. And I will be also leaving a link to this book I'm talking about, which is called Riches and Glory. It is a Christian romance story. And so if you do want to go check it out and see hopefully how far I have come, it is available on Amazon. And like I said, I'll be leaving a link in the description. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I will be putting up that video about my second book and the lessons I learned there soon, so be sure to watch out for that. And you can do that, of course, best by subscribing and turning on the bell notification, as I'm sure you know. And if you don't mind, I would love to hear in the comments below what you've learned so far in your writing journey. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.